Another day, Mets fans, and it is more the same. Another day where the Mets find every single way imaginable to find themselves in the loss column. How we doing, everybody? Even though that I know you're not doing well, because like you, like me, your guy Wardy here is beyond pissed off and is now beyond comprehension, folks. We have now reached not only rock bottom, but I completely understand the justified takes to say that this season may in fact be coming to an end. I'm not saying it's officially over, because it's not officially official until it is time to say that it's officially official, but my God, the writing is on the wall. And a day where the Mets show up offensively and give you 9 effing runs, including a huge 3-run bomb there by Francisco Alvarez. In fact, it was still too little too late, because Ryan Helsley was thrown in this ball game when the Mets only had themselves a 1-run or so lead. Enlighten me as to how that ever made sense for Carlos Mendoza. The night after Helsley looked like absolute dog water, we decided to throw him out there yet again in a tight ball game. This Mets bullpen that was initially bolstered by David Stearns at this year's deadline to say, hey, we're going to make sure we have one of the best bullpens in baseball, came back to bite the Mets so much in the ass that even though Sean Manaea did not get the job done, take a look at this disaster class of a pitching outing. Tyler Rogers, Ryan Helsley, even my dog Brooks Raley, Frankie Montas, more like Montas. If your name was basically, literally Tyler Rogers was the lesser of all of them when it came to incompetence, and he himself still allowed an earned run in this one. Like, when I tell you that things are down bad, it is to the point that I'm not going to sit here and yell for the next hour. I'm going to yell, I'm going to be hot-headed to begin the show, as we always are after another deflating loss for the Mets here, but when you put up the offensive numbers the way that the Mets did today, when you had Francisco Lindor carrying the club early on this one, finally finding his swing again, the man is absolutely red hot. Juan Soto there with a solo bomb, Juan Solo yet again with nothing else to show, Brandon Nimmo with a very underwhelming day, the Polar Bear with nothing to show in this one, Vientos, color me shocked, it's almost like it's hard to hit a baseball when you haven't been in a game in over 4 days. Why? Because the Mets said, let's not trade Vientos at the deadline, let's just hurt his trade value even more and do absolutely nothing with him post-trade deadline. Cedric Mullins, Alvarez was a dog, Ronnie Mauricio, I love what I saw from Ronnie, everybody, but what I hate to see is the same exact story every single game with this Mets club, and that is why I'm not even going out my way to give you guys the fancy graphics tonight. I usually have the highlights chopped up behind me, but I can't do it. I just can't do it right now. I'm so fed up with this Mets team, just like each and every one of you. They find every single way to lose, even in a game where the Mets batted .500 with runners in scoring position. They go 4 for 8. The Seattle Mariners, who have been one of the hottest teams in baseball post-trade deadline, didn't even utilize Josh Naylor today, and it didn't matter. They took care of business without a problem against this Mets team, winning by a whopping final score of 11-9. And yes, folks, the Mets have now lost 14 of their past 16 games. But oh, surely they're going to turn it around. But wait, there's still time left this season. Yes, there's time left. But miss me with the nonsense to suggest that we should have confidence instilled as Mets fans. In case you guys are wondering, why has Wardy been telling you guys when we do our SeatGeek ad reads to not attend Citi Field? This is why. I've been saying this for the past 5 days now. Utilize our promo code WARDY10 for 10% off your next ticket purchase, but use it for the NFL season. Use it there with other things that are going to give you entertainment and not misery while you spend hundreds of dollars at the ballpark, 40 effing dollars for parking just to see the shit show you call ball club. Miss me with that. Patrick of the Fight, this team, maybe the pitching staff needs to have a meeting or something. Here's the thing, I don't know how much a meeting's really going to change all that much at this point in the season. Tango's to Wardy just laughed, man, this is comedy now. And the fact that it's comedy is true, but I can't laugh at this, because here's the thing, I'm not sitting here entertained. I'm not sitting here, oh my God, this is hilarious. No, I want to throw my mic out the window and not watch this team for the rest of the season. We got our guy with a $2 at this point. You just call up the youth, shake my head. But here's the thing, the Mets have already started the process of calling up the youth. The Mets said, you know what, let's go ahead and call up Noah McLean the day after the Mets season is unofficially over. Again, I'm not saying it's official. I'm not saying that it's a stamp of approval of that band. There's no way they're going to come back. There's still no playoff spot right now. But at the same time, who gives a rat's you know what that they're in a playoff spot right now? There's not one single fan out there that is instilled in confidence. If you are, then you're smoking that good and you got to pass it over here, because that has to be some strong stuff. It's really hard to be enlightened as a Mets fan right now. It is awfully difficult to look at this club and say to yourself in confidence that, yeah, the boys are going to get out of this rut. this is not just a 2+ week problem. The Mets have lost 2 weeks worth of baseball in a row for the most part, dropping 14 in their past 16 games. The Mets are 19 and 35 since they started the season, 45 and 24. The Mets have been a bad team longer this season than they have been a good team. Anyone that thinks otherwise, I got a bridge to sell you. Just because the Mets have a winning record doesn't mean they played winning baseball. The Mets had so many early wins in hand with their great pitching exceeding expectations, even while the offense did not hit with runners in scoring position. That what have the Mets done over the past 2 weeks? They've not only lost games because of a lack of offense, they've lost games because of a lack of starting pitching, and they've lost games because of a lack of bullpen. The only thing that we're missing right now is a complete defensive disaster class where the Mets don't know how to defend anything for an A or two. Once they do that, then we've checked off every effing infinity stone, and the Mets have found every way to lose imaginable. Oh my God, I'm mad. I'm so sorry. Getting too loud. I apologize. Holy shite, bullpen 7 runs. This is horrendous. Actually horrendous. Greg with the $2. Has any team gone from 21 over to under 500? You'd have to think so, but if not, the Mets are on their way to getting closer to that record. Again, I pray that doesn't happen. I know the season is not over, but I hate the fact that I continue to come out here every single night for you guys for a 2-week basis of saying the exact same nonsense as if we're supposed to spin it as something else. I'm not here to spin anything. I'm here to talk to you guys straight, just like how a Mets fan would right now exiting Citi Field. All those sorry fans, including some of you guys watching this live on a replay right now, attended those games at Citi Field. I warned you. I told you, don't spend your hard-earned money on this team until they sell you and give you enough of a reason to buy in. They have not given us a reason to buy in for over 2 months now. There's nothing to suggest that you should buy in now, other than maybe you want to have a nice day at the ballpark while disregarding the score. We have to view this the way that Pittsburgh Pirates fans view going to PNC Park. Love the scenes, love the city, love the vibes, love the environment, but they're not there for baseball because they know that they're not going to see winning baseball. The same way that every Mets fan that attended today's game either had fool's gold or unfortunately a slice of humble pie, which is the fact that yes, even in a game where the Mets score 9 runs, even in a game where the Mets bat 500 with runners in scoring position, they still find every which way to lose. It is disgusting, it is despicable, and I'm beyond tired of talking about this baseball club on a daily basis. Yeah, here we are doing it exactly again. 1200 with a $5 holla. I have more faith in the New York Giants and the Mets at this point. So Pucky could fix this. He really could. See you next season, Wardy Paul. Thank you for the $2 holla. Jonah, $2 holla. Stearns came to ensure the Brewers won the pennant. That's funny. I'm not going to lie. Thank you for the donation. Casey, some sad facts. This week, Mets are averaging more than 7 runs a game. Don't tell me that. Don't tell me that, Casey. Don't tell me that. Please do not tell me that the Mets have been averaging 7 runs the past week. That makes us 10 times worse. 37 runs and are 1-4. We have lost 14-16, and in their 2 wins, the leads of 3 runs and 4 runs. They have been consistently bad. They have been dog water. They have been below pond scum. This team makes the bad news Bears look like they're getting ready to win the effing dance. Mets 21-28. Get Mendoza out of New York. Thank you so much for the donation. I appreciate that. We got our guy Dave with a $5 holla. Wardy, I just graduated from Army Basics training. First and foremost, congratulations, my guy. That's awesome. Finally, we have a positive to get into outside of this oh my God, this sorry team that we call the New York Mets. And what the hell happened since I left? We were in first place overall. Oh my God, I feel terrible. This man is going out to serve for our country, right? He just finished his Army basic training. When he left, the Mets were comfortably in first. Now that he's back, the Mets are just a half game up, if not a full game up there for that final wildcard spot. That is a nightmare that I don't want to be a part of, and I really do feel bad that that is in fact the case for you, David. Thank you so much again for being in here. I really do appreciate that. We rather look at you, Wardy. I appreciate that, Bobby. You're too kind. Again, you guys want to see tomato face Wardy? That's what you're getting tonight because I'm about to lose my mind. We're going to break down shortly this ball game, all the ins and the outs, the ups and the downs in this one. Again, Francisco Lindor had the home run heroics, so lots of love there. I really liked what I saw from Alvarez yet again at the plate today. There are individual player performances that have yourself excited and happy as a Mets fan, but that happiness is quickly flushed down the effing drain and nowhere to be seen because then you see Big Dumper doing Big Dumper things. Cal Riley single-handedly pistol whipped this Mets team. Then you added the rest of this Mariners lineup. They went batting practice. They had 16 hits to the Mets 12. And as we just mentioned a second ago, the Mets allowed 7 earned runs from their bullpen. The same bullpen that's supposed to be their stronghold just had, without question, one of their worst bullpen outings of the entire season. Oh my goodness gracious. Folks, the collapse is officially upon us. It's been here, but it is falling down so hard right now that you're waiting for everything else to follow along with it. Zig with a $2 haul to let me take him before the game is over. Let me see. I don't know what you said there, Zig, but thank you for the donation. I appreciate that. Given the payroll, says Dan, talent and expectations, this season might be the most pathetic ever. They really are a total embarrassment. Not like the expression, they're actually literally embarrassing to watch. No, you're 1,000% right. They're nothing short of an embarrassment right now. And the most frustrating thing about this, and we have been beating this drum for so long, but we'll say it again, what is most embarrassing about the Mets? As you just relayed, Dan, it's the expectation. It's the Juan Soto year 1 contract making $100 million in his signing bonus and base pay, yet he has been more of an individual performer than he has been that true guy we need for this team. And I'm not saying that Soto is at all the sole reason behind the Mets' struggles here, but he does fall in that category when we talk about runners in scoring position, no doubt. Then we get into all the other aspects of this club. When you look at the roster configuration, when you look at the lineup, look at the rotation, when you look at everything, even with their flaws, this team was still expected to do greater things than what they're doing right now. You really think the Mets are going to get 90 victories this year? I don't see a chance in hell the Mets get 90 victories this year. The Mets will be lucky, and they find themselves finishing the season there with, say, 85 to 87 wins at this current rate. Right now, the Mets look like such a shell of a club that we were initially buying in to begin the season, that is why we're embarrassed. The same thing that has been the biggest demise for this club since Steve Cohen became owner is coming out to bite them right in the ass yet again. The lack of expectation is how this Mets team thrives. When they have lack of expectation in a big market, when they have a losing record, it's easy to relax and say, hey, the pressure's off our shoulders right now. Just go out and prove people wrong. And they did that. They sawed away. They clawed away one by one, game by game in the amazing 2024 season. Fast forward to 2025, you have not only playoff expectations, but you have at minimum NLCS expectations after getting 2 games away from the dance a year ago. You at minimum are expected to not only get there, but hopefully get to the dance because you just signed Juan Soto, because you say to yourself, we pretty much brought back the same team as last year with the exception of a couple guys in the rotation that clearly are hurting this team greater than before, that being in not having the Severinos and the Quintanas of the world, the Strongholds, the Vibes guys, and the guys that honestly would have kept things afloat right now and this current shit show that you call a ball club and a rotation status. The point I'm trying to make, everybody, is that when you look at this team right now, not having the clutch gene and not having the ability to actually wake up with the bright lights when they had the expectation is exactly why there should not be a single fan out here in confidence that truly believes that this team is going to go on a special run. If you fall in that category, I wish you the best, and I hope that I somehow, some way can get into that little Delulu land or optimism, if you will, because maybe you're right. Maybe I'm the one who's wrong, and maybe ranting for the past month and a half or so will be all worthwhile in the end because the Mets are destined to do something special. But by God, I would love to see at least a sliver of hope as to how we're going to get there, because I have no effing clue right now. Every game, it is something different and how this team is losing. But it's the same story at the end of the day. The common consensus with this team is that they do not know how to hold a lead to save their life. Just to share some context, over the past 53 games, and 20 of those past 53 games, the Mets have allowed 4 or more runs in 1 inning. What does that mean? They are a disaster. They are a team that is 1 inning away from collapsing on an every game basis. They wait. Whether it's the 4th, the 5th, or the 6th, one of those innings is usually this Mets team's demise. And it's between the rotation not getting the job done the 2nd and 3rd time in the order, as well as your bullpen not giving you the stability. And then when you do get those things, as we just mentioned, there's nothing to be seen with this offense whatsoever. Then when you get the offense, you don't get the other things. You're not allowed to have them in unison. Step right up and meet the Mets. Thank you so much for those donations. I appreciate that. Mendoza has no choices to go in the pen. Second awful trade deadline for David Stearns. No sugarcoating. Here's the thing. David Stearns did not have a bad deadline when you look at the bullpen, as well as adding Cedric Mullins. The only thing I think you could rightfully criticize with David Stearns at the deadline was not pushing harder for a starter, maybe getting a bit more desperate. I think we can all agree there. Bullpen-wise, Guys, you're fooling yourself if you say to yourself now that David Stearns did a terrible job there. On paper, no, he didn't. And as a matter of fact, he was widely praised across the league for what the Mets gave up asset-wise for what they got in return. The problem, however, is that the guys that we invested in, the guys that we gave up the prospect capital for, are not getting the job done consistently, right? Gregory Soto's looked absolutely fantastic since laying here for the most part. Tyler Rogers has been good but not great. Ryan Helsley has been absolutely horrendous. He's been batting practice. He's allowed 7 runs and 5 earned runs over his past 2.1 innings pitched. But for some odd reason, Carlos Mendoza really thought it was a bright idea to bring him in yet again today after getting rocked the way he was yesterday. I get it. It was another barn burner. I understand when Sean Manaea gives you no length yet again as he only goes 5 innings for you, it's kind of tough to figure out the bullpen. But at the same time, why don't you understand the feel? Why can't you get it through your skull that Ryan Helsley, who is clearly struggling to adjust going from a closer to now not being in non-closer situations, is now being utilized in the 7th? How does that make sense? You want to know what? It doesn't make sense. And that's what you can pinpoint on Carlos Mendoza. The same way that you can pinpoint a lot on David Stearns when it comes to the rotation woes. The same way how it's so fitting, as I said earlier, and I will say it again, it took the Mets literally now, as we see tonight, as we're breaking down tonight at the time of talking right now, the Mets feel like their season is unofficially over. Unofficially over. And tomorrow, who makes their season debut for the Mets in the rotation? Noah McLean. What did I tell you guys for the past 2.5 to 3 weeks? It's as follows. David Stearns is going to wait until it's too little too late to make these in-house adjustments. Whether it's firing guys, whether it's calling up kids, it is not going to happen until we reach a point where we have now dropped another bar. You know how a week ago I told you guys, where's the bar for David Stearns? When are we going to get that bar to finally say, hey, we need to make a change here? Well, folks, that bar has come at the cost of the Mets and potentially their 2025 season. I'm not saying that Noah McLean is supposed to be our saving grace. I'm not saying that he was going to go out tomorrow and necessarily dominate right away. But what I am saying is that when you had clear flaws and when you had clear woes and when you had clear options internally to consider, why are you not going out your way to do that sooner? It makes no sense not to. They can make all the sorry excuses in the world for it, but we're watching in real time why this Mets team is as played with their flaws as they are, and why we should have no confidence whatsoever in this ability to actually get somewhere this season. They have to go out and prove it, because right now all they're proving is how much Mets baseball, how bad of a team can Steve Cohen buy? That is what we're looking at more than anything right now. We see here, Karen with the 2 holla. The fireworks show is better than the game. And here's the thing about the fireworks show. I don't remember the last time this season the Mets played a Friday night home game and won that effing game. How many games this year have the Mets actually won on Friday night, DJ night, blackout night with the fireworks? It feels like every effing Friday heading in the weekend, the Mets played more sorry baseball, even when they were playing better in the first half. But Karen, I hope you had an absolute blast there. Pay attention to your donors. They're disappearing. Alvin, I have been replying as many as I possibly can right now. Guys and gals, if I miss any of your comments, please know that it's not personal, and please relay again in the live show if you have a specific comment, question, or something along those lines that you want me to answer. When we have north of 1,000 people live in the show right now, naturally I'm going to miss some comments, but I'm doing the best of my abilities to answer them while we break down everything here in Mets land. And we're going to do exactly that, everybody. But before we break down this ball game, this sorry ball game, and why we're so pissed off as Mets fans for yet another night here on the WardyNYM platform, please make sure to hit that like and subscribe button on your way in. Don't hold back from telling me how you Mets fans feel in the live chat and the comments to all of our replay viewers. I greatly appreciate that. Help us get to 35,000 subscribers, everybody, for our next short-term goal. Because while the Mets don't show up on a nightly basis, who's showing up for each and every one of you? This guy. When in doubt, Wardy out, baby. I will always be here to cover this team. I will always be here to have your guys' back, to defend the fan base, and to make sure that the voices are heard and we scream it to the rooftops when this team cannot play competent baseball. Hit those buttons, guys, and shout out to our amazing sponsors that make the show happen today here at SeatGeek, that has you covered for all of your ticketing needs. Make sure that you utilize our promo code WARDY10 for 10% off your next ticket purchase, as I just mentioned there, with our promo code WARDY10. Link down below there, not only for Mets tickets, because why go to a Mets game right now? Use it for the NFL season right around the corner. Use it for concert tickets. Use it for comedy show tickets. Use it for whatever you need. SeatGeek is the #1 rated ticketing app in the game today for a reason, because they have over 70,000 active events to choose from. It is so easy to lock in and utilize them for things outside of just the Mets. John with the 5 after today, fire Mendy, Hefner, Chavez, option Montes, and Vientos. 1, None of those things are going to happen. I'm sorry to break it to you. And the immediate response to that is as follows. The Mets are not going to immediately fire Mendy, Hefner, or Chavez right now. They're not going to send down Montas. They're not going to send down Vientos because he doesn't have any minor league options yet. And the Mets are not going to bring up Sproat and Jet tomorrow. None of those things are likely going to happen. Brandon Sproat just pitched the other day, and he got rocked. So we don't even know when Brandon Sproat is going to be considered next for this team. Jet Williams and Carson Bench have been amazing in AAA. I think the Mets should absolutely bark up that tree sooner than later. But here's the thing. How much of a difference maker are young and experienced players really going to make when the Mets already have a fairly deep lineup? That's another part of the problem. You can't look at this lineup and say that, oh my God, there's clear glaring holes in all these areas. For what the Mets have call-up options-wise right now for their bats, there really aren't many opportunities for them to consider without potentially hurting their development. So that is where I find myself further concerned, everybody. But before we break down this ballgame, everybody, let's hear from our amazing sponsor of the platform, as well as Moo, the official trading platform of the New York Mets. Folks, have you been seeing that big orange bowl that's making Mondays at Citi Field way more exciting? I'm talking about our amazing sponsor on the platform at Moo. As the #1 Mets channel on YouTube, I absolutely love to break down stats, analysis, really getting into the nitty-gritty numbers, and that is why I love so much Moo, because they do exactly that with that same analytical approach when it comes to investing. It's a trading platform with professional grade tools and premium research that other companies usually charge a pretty hefty price for, all come for free when you sign up as a customer with Moo. But folks, that's just the tip of the iceberg. And thanks to Moo's partnership with our beloved New York Metropolitans, all Moo customers can get free tickets to any and every Mets home game on a Monday throughout the course of the season. That's right, folks. Free baseball all season long for the greatest fan base in sports. Not to mention Moo Millions. If the Mets pull off 100 wins this season, one lucky Moo customer is going to come out winning $1 million. And what's nuts about this is that Moo has already given away $10,000 when the Mets hit first 25 wins this season, as well as $20,000 when they hit the 50-win mark. And when the Mets inevitably hit 75 wins, they're giving away $30,000. But as much as they love baseball, Moo's #1 priority is jump-starting your investing journey, which is why they're giving the WardyNYM community up to $1,000 in NVIDIA stock just for making a qualified deposit and becoming a Moo customer. So folks, what are you waiting for? Head to start.moomoo.com/Wardy, scan the QR code, or click the link in the description to join the Moo community. Now, let's get back to our Mets. Okay, guys, John with the $5 holla. Don't get me wrong, don't hate Mendoza's, but sometimes I miss Terry. He would have gotten the fire. He would have gotten the fire for this team, but let's also call another thing in regards to Terry Collins, because I feel like this happens every single time that we get out here and we talk about the struggles with the team. I get it. We all defer to you got to give us a shot and that fantastic post-game presser that Terry had, but Terry Collins was a losing manager. I don't know why we have to look at one guy, and I get it just because he had moxie at snarl. We love that about Terry. No ill will on him, but let's not just have it where we miss Terry. Let's just make sure that we actually have a guy that knows how to properly vocalize himself, because I don't know where Carlos Mendoza's voice is, or lack thereof, when it comes to this Mets team. You really have to wonder that when you hear the same post-game pressers, the same pre-game pressers, the same thing about how they need to chip away, and obviously how they're not getting the job done, and how we're just one little move away in a ball game for going out and winning. Again, it's not just down to the little details about one little difference that changes away in the complexion of the ball game. If you've actually paid at all attention to this Mets team, then you know damn well that the problems that they've had have been in direct hand with the problems that have plagued them for the vast majority of the season. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure this out. I understand that Carlos Mendoza is the Mets manager, so his job, #1, is to not necessarily rat anyone out in the public eye and to make sure that he can keep things tight-lipped and in-house to the best of his ability. Even with having said that, I have been discouraged with what we've seen publicly from his remarks. The same way that I've been discouraged from what we get from David Stearns, even though I know David is obviously not going to go out of his way to beat you blunt. Even Steve Cohen now. Steve went out of his way today. The final thing I'll say here, everybody, before we break down this ballgame, I know I said that, but I'll say it once more. Steve Cohen did, in fact, post on X earlier today. He meant to either reply back to Andy Martino, or he meant to reply back to some guy with the name of Andy. Steve tends to do this at times, which I kind of find hilarious, but he went out on X today, and he said the following. Andy, the fans have been great. They are bringing real energy to the stadium. I asked them to come out and they did. Thank you. Well, here's the thing, Steve. The fans are coming out to the stadium. That's going to start to change beginning tomorrow. I promise you it's going to start to change beginning tomorrow. Yes, you're still going to get a lot of people in attendance. Mets fans show up no matter what. But I'm telling you, the ones that have been absolutely fed up, the ones that have been living and dying with this club are not going to be going either way to attend baseball games this weekend with the way that they now have dropped 2 weeks worth straight of baseball games. I'm sorry. That's a hard sell. It's a greater hard sell when you have to pay $40 for parking, you have to spend north of $20 on one beer, and you have to spend what feels like at least $150 just to have yourself a comfortable time while waiting 4 innings, if not longer, it feels like, in one effing line to get an overpriced Nathan's hot dog just to find yourself in the 6th inning wondering how did the Mets just blow their latest 4-run lead. Cue me, color me shocked, one, and secondly, if you have found yourself in that category, raise your hand in the live chat right now, because I know damn well you guys have been exactly what I just relayed. All right. Let's get into this one. Sean with the two-da-ha. This is bum season is over. Fire everyone. Stearns suck. They're not going to fire everyone. As much as you may want them to, they're not going to. And here's what I said. It's going to be too late for them to go ahead and make the proper changes that they need to make. Thank you guys for all the kind words as you're watching live on a replay for our latest Mets post-game rant and breakdown as they lose in a dramatic fashion, a horrendous fashion in the Seattle Mariners tonight by a final score of 11-9. Please hit that like and subscribe button on your way and to help us get a 300+ likes to all of our live and reoccurring viewers. That would really mean a lot. All you guys got to do is less than half of you guys right now just got to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button as well. It really does mean a lot. Let's see in here, guys. We got Garchomp with the $20 holla. You know how sometimes good actors perform badly because the material they were provided with was bad to begin with? That's Mendoza with Stearns' bullpen. I don't think you're wrong, but here's the thing, though. On paper, the Stearns bullpen is fantastic. That's the most frustrating aspect. Guys just aren't performing right now. Ryan Helsley has been nails for the majority of the year, and Buddy can't handle non-safe situations to save his life right now, not being the go-to guy there because we have Edwin Diaz for that. So I understand what you're saying, but I think that comment is more valid in the first half of the season before Stearns went and allocated and added those players at this year's deadline. Again, two things can be true. David Stearns made, on paper, really good bullpen acquisitions for rental contract. What we can see in that same light is that those relievers have not been getting the job done as much as we'd hope. And the Mets bullpen has not been at all utilized the way that we've hoped it be to this point because the rotation is even weaker than we initially thought, or at least according to David Stearns and Carlos Mendoza, apparently, even though we've been calling this out for weeks, if not months on end. And then that's about that. Thank you so much for the donation. I appreciate that with Stearns bullpen. Mendoza can only do so much with a bargain man. I get that, but I think that's also valid to a degree when we look at the rotation, especially when guys aren't giving you length. It's not Mendy's fault when Sean Manaea is looking like batting practice again. Nor is it Mendy's fault when you have Kodai Senga go 3 or 4 consecutive starts and not being that ace caliber starter that you need him to be. Wardy, the answer is don't support this Little League team. It's not worth the money. You could use your money on your family instead. For sure. Listen, the next game that I plan on attending isn't until around August 25th. That's against the Phillies. That is a Monday. But here's the thing. I don't even know if I'm going to go at this rate because it's really hard to get on board to actually find ourselves locked in to want to attend these sorry baseball games. Final thing here, everybody, is as follows. Let me just go ahead and do this. I meant to do it earlier in the live show just because the camera, it's not a big deal, but it's just slightly darker than I want to be. So I'm going to go here and just put up the brightness a little bit. There we go. That way we can pop a little bit more. Okay, all right, that's cool. Instead of it doing what I needed to, it just went pitch black. This is actually a perfect example of the Mets season, right? You think everything's sunshine and rainbows, everything is nice and perfect, you know, the sun's hitting you perfectly, you feel nice, and then bam, pitch black before you know it. The reality that this Mets season is not what we thought it was going to be. So there we go, that is set up there. All right, guys, let's talk about it again on a night where the Mets had 9 runs. 9 effing runs. I cannot emphasize this enough. A game where you finally were hitting with competency with runners in scoring position. I don't even know if that's a word or not, how I just said it, but it doesn't matter. What does matter is that the Mets, again, continue to find ways to lose. And it all starts here, everybody, that we saw in the first inning. Who's towing the rubber for the Seattle Mariners? Mind you, the Mets beat up on a rock-solid start today. All the more reason why I want to lose my effing mind on how they lost today. Luis Castillo, the same Luis Castillo who we've cried for to potentially land in years past via trade. It hasn't happened. Castillo serves up batting practice for the Mets today. Francisco Lindor looks like a man possessed with the bat. There's so much to love on the offensive end, but Sean Manaea looks like batting practice in his first handful of innings. Let's get into this, everybody. We see Randy Rosarena with a leadoff single. Then we see Cal Riley there. We would see him fly out. And Cal kicked the Mets' ass today single-handedly. Oh my God. There's one thing that I made a mistake on. It was doubting Cal's ability to keep the home run pace the way that he has this season. He very well could hit 55 to 60 home runs this year, which will not only be an anomaly for a catcher, but something that we've all been praying that something we could get out of Francisco Alvarez from when he had his rookie breakout year a couple years ago. Now Alvy's just trying to get to 10 home runs before the season ends. But I digress. Alvarez is not the problem. I know that. He's been amazing. Julio Rodriguez with a double, his 20th of the year right away, because what happens, Sean Manaea serving on meatballs is what happens. You know, Sean, I understand that the Samoan southpaw loves to chef things up there in the offseason, but maybe let's not try to cook things up in season, because, buddy, it stinks. And pitch 2 that we see with the sweeper is just getting way too much of the play here for Julio, who eats up all that to give them the early 1-0 lead. Right away, in the first 3 batters that the Mets and Sean Manaea face, they're already down at least 1 run. Afterwards, that's all she wrote for the inning. We find ourselves in the bottom of the first. In the bottom of the first, Francisco Lindor rips his 23rd home run of the year. Leadoff Lindor with the liftoff, and Lindor ties the ball game 1-1. Like we said, Lindor's been heating up a lot lately, but unfortunately, it's kind of coming too little too late. At least it's appearing that way. Lindor didn't bat well for a month and a half. In that month and a half, the Mets had such a downward spiral that unfortunately, we're seeing the immediate repercussions of guys like him and others not stepping up and being way too streaky in the season where the Mets need more consistency. I love Lindor. You guys know I do. But what we can also say is that when Lindor's right, he's fantastic. When he's wrong and when he's not hot, oh my God, he is so Jekyll and Hyde, it's not even funny. Lindor, though, after we saw yesterday smack himself 3 hits, including a bomb, he did that yet again with a bomb, 2 home runs in 24 hours, and he would make it 3 before we end this conversation. Justin, I love you too. Thank you so much for being a great member here. I appreciate that. Tito with the $5. I've been a Mets fan for 40 years. This is as bad as I've ever seen the pitching for this team. This pitching roster is atrocious. The season is cooked. And that's a common consensus too. You have diehard fans that have been fans for the past 5 to 10 years. Fans who have been, again, fans for 40 years. 50 years, you name it. And the commonality that I see in my live shows every single day, from the live viewers to our replay comments, is as follows. Everyone thinks we're cooked. The vast majority, at least 90% of fans I'm interacting with, truly do believe that we have not only hit rock bottom, but it's really hard to see any kind of light. Even with the Mets right now, when you take a look at the wild card standings, everybody, they're still in a playoff spot, but genuinely speaking, who cares when you have the same amount of wins as the Cincinnati Reds? They're only a half game up on them, and you're 6 games out behind the Philadelphia Phillies. It's a joke, it's an embarrassment, and it's disgusting, is what it is, to say the least. Let's see, we got people in the chat saying sorry to hear for being a Mets fan for 40 years. That's how you know we're down bad. We got people saying basically their condolences to our guy Tito in the chat for his donation from a second ago. Kind of funny, if I'm being honest with you. But as we hop back in here, everybody, Lindor tied the ball game 1-1. Then the second, who hits a bomb? And I'm sorry, this is another jinx job by the SNY broadcast booth. Love Gary, Keith, and Ron to death. They will always be my guys no matter what. But what's also true is, Gary, listen, I get it. Mitch Garver has good numbers against the Mets, and I know it's your job to relay these things, but you know, we don't need to put him on such a pedestal where it's like you'd be shocked if he didn't do anything. That is exactly how Gary spoke in laying us out. He's batting .350 against the Mets, has a tremendous OPS, and absolutely rakes. Mitch Garver, when he was a Twin, when he was a Ranger, now Seattle Mariner, doesn't matter. Buddy's in the lineup today there for Josh Naylor, and he hits an absolute bomb off of the southpaw Sean Manaea. That makes it 2-1 Mariners right away. And let's take a look at where this pitch placement was for Sean Manaea. How good or bad was it, everybody? Let's break it down, because as I look down beside me, this pitch honestly wasn't terrible. It's more so the fact that it was just a great swing by Garver to get it out. It was a fastball upstairs, just touching the top right corner, and that was smacked there for 105 on the exit velo and 400 feet of a bomb there. And that does it. That makes it a 2-1 Mariners lead. It would not stay 2-1, obviously, as the Mets lost this one by a final score of 11-9. JTB says in the chat, instead of Meet the Mets, the new theme song should be Welcome to the Shit Show. I mean, you're definitely not wrong. That is exactly where we're at right now. $5 haul from KC. This August is going to go down as one of the worst in franchise history, right next to 2002 August, when they lost every home game in a wild card race. Unfortunately, I don't think you're far off from that being the reality right right now because we're halfway through August, and the Mets have literally only won one effing game, or two games in August. Whoop-de-doo. We have 2 wins in August. It's August 15th. You see how disgusting that is? Justino with a $5 holla. Wardy Mets fans need to stay home. I appreciate your passion. You feel all of our pain. Absolutely feel all your pain. 100%. Because it's one thing to go out your way to attend Mets games when you guys live around the block. Maybe you live, a half-hour distance from Citi Field. Maybe it's only a 1-hour hike. Guys, I live 2.5 hours away with traffic or so, if not 2 hours and 45 minutes from Citi Field. Every single time I go to Citi Field, more often than not, are day trips I do in the same day. And I currently have the same amount of wins, if not more losses I do wins this season, which is horrendous to say. And you want to know the most brutal part about that? That is after, mind you, you're not just attending as a fan, but you're focusing as a content creator. You're focusing on work. It's an all-day affair just to see your team give you a steaming pile of dog shit that's supposed to be their product, which is their latest defeat. So thank you for that donation. I really do appreciate that. As we continue on in here, though, everybody, we see it's 2-1. The Mets are down. In the bottom of the second, Jeff McNeil, more like Jeff McDoubles. He rips his 14th double of the year, everybody. And then Francisco Alvarez ties the ball game there with a single, beautifully placed, just gets past there of the Mariners infield, and that makes it a tied 2-2 ball game. Ronnie Mauricio then with 2 outs keeps the line going with a single. Francisco Lindor keeps the line going himself. Again, the Mets have been doing a rock-solid job lately. When they have been hitting, they've been hitting plenty with 2 outs and runners in scoring position. Things that we should naturally be encouraged by, but there's little encouragement because when the Mets finally have a semblance of offense, their pitching is nowhere to be seen. Francisco Lindor with an RBI makes it 3-2 Mets, his second RBI of the day already, and then Juan Soto gets on with a walk. Bases are loaded for Brandon Nimmo. All Nimmo needs to do is poke a single to give the Mets a multi-run lead, but he grounds out there to first baseman Davin Solano, and that does it. Then we see everybody in the third inning. In the third, Randy Arozarena with a leadoff single. Cal Riley, one of the best home run hitters, if not the best home run hitter in all baseball this year, facing the soft-tossing southpaw Sean Manaea. Surely this matchup is going to end well. Cue the effing sarcasm. Pitch number 2, it's a 14 fastball, 93 miles per hour in on Cal Riley. You really think that's going to work? You really think Cal Riley isn't going to turn on that for a 400-foot bomb to make it a Mariners 4-3 lead? Of course he didn't think that. Well, folks, that's the reality. It is 4-3 Mariners at this point because of exactly what I just said. We got another donation. Note to the boy Wonder GM. Let's see. Hiring wins championships. Here's the thing. Hiring doesn't guarantee anything when it comes to championships, okay? But what I will say, if I'm going to play at all devil's advocate here for David Stearns, because I know everyone's ragging on him, and for a great reason, the one thing I will say in favor of David here is, guys, in order to have a championship history, you need to win one. And there are so many execs in baseball that hadn't won one until recently. And you don't see Mets fans reacting the same way there or the same fan bases. Why? Because it's common sense. You're not going to win until you actually win. Andrew Freeman didn't win until he finally won with the Dodgers, right? When you think of all these organizations over the year that have won World Series and how they've done it, especially, a lot of this isn't built overnight. And in the case of David Stearns, this is just his second year here. He's far from perfect. I understand that. We have rightful criticism where aspects of the roster have been absolutely terrible because of maybe him not doing enough there. But what we can say in that same breath, in that same light, is that he has done plenty good for this team. He's done fantastic on the draft front. He's done great on the player development. And he has done savvy moves to a degree with certain aspects of the team. The problem, though, is that he hasn't done enough. And we have seen now back-to-back years of not doing enough, coming back to bite the Mets in the ass one way or the other at the deadline. I know the Mets really didn't have a whole lot of else that they could have done at this year's deadline, but at the same time, it's still that shoulda, coulda, woulda mentality for a team that is now collapsing before our very eyes, has now dropped 14 of their past 16 games. Because as we see from there, after the Cal Riley home run that made it a 4-3 Mariners lead, it's back-to-back-to-back strikeouts. Sean Manaea strikes out the side after that, and that gets us through the third. And the bottom of the third, everybody, we would see for the Mets, what would they do on the offensive end in the bottom of the third? They would do a whole lot of nothing. So we get to the fourth inning. What happens in the fourth inning? We would see there a ground rule double there for Cole Young that has runners at second and third with 2 outs there, but thankfully Randy Arozarena struck out to end the inning unscathed. In the bottom of the fourth, Cedric Mullins strikes out, Francisco Alvarez strikes out, and then Ronnie Mauricio rips a single, and he steals his 4th bag of the year. That would be a beautifully stolen bag by the Mets, and they continue their streak now of 37 consecutive stolen bases without being thrown out. That is a franchise record. Francisco Lindor said, let's get right back in this one. And again, the Mets offense was there today. The Mets offense was brilliant today on retaliating back basically every opportunity that they had or close to. And as we have known all season long, when the Mets win ball games, when they rally back in ball games, They do a fantastic job in direct part because of the fact that they respond in a half inning or a full inning from that point on. Usually when the Mets lose games this year, especially the first half, that's when the offense is nowhere to be seen for multiple innings after they either gave up an early lead or after we saw the opposing team at least, tie the ball game. Something along those lines. But that Lindor home run, his 24th of the year, makes it a 5-4 Mets lead. And then Juan Soto with a massive bomb right away. Their first pitch he sees in that at-bat. His 30th home run of the year, which leads the Mets, everybody. It's a 6-4 Mets lead. The Mets had a 2-run lead as Brandon Nimmo rips his 23rd double of the year. Because, of course, Nimmo finally gets a gapper after he has no one on the bases. Then we see Alonso fly out. That does it there for the inning. And the 5th, Shamanaya gets himself a scoreless inning. He hits Eugenio Suarez, but that's all she wrote. Give me 1 second, guys. I just got to blow out my nose quick. One more second. Thank you guys for the donations, too. I really do appreciate that. We got Jules with the $5 holla. Lindor has bags under his eyes in the post-game conference right now. He's fed up with his team. I feel for him. I feel for him, too. I really do. But listen, Lindor is part of the core. Lindor is part of the actual what's right with this team, the same way that when things are wrong, we have to look at him, the team leader, to a degree, right? And I think we can also say this. Lindor is heating up now, and that's amazing to see. But Lindor being as ice cold as he was for a month and a half really bit this Mets team in the ass. And while I feel for him, we also have to bear in mind that he has not been perfect this year either. I feel for him more so on the fact that this man has single-handedly carried this club in a lot of ways, going back to the 2024 season with nothing to show for it. And when we say nothing to show, we mean outside that NLCS, the Mets don't have any championships to flex. They have nothing along those lines. So I get what you're saying, but I also know that he himself has not been perfect either. Thank you so much for that donation, though. I really do appreciate it. As we continue on, guys, in the bottom of the 5th inning, what do we see in the bottom of the 5th? A whole lot of nothing by the Mets. So setting the stage now for the 6th inning, guys. Tyler Rogers comes in after Shamanaya is done. Now, Shamanaya, he had a tale of 2 stories in his outing today, because when he started the game, he didn't look good. He looked like batting practice. But Manaya went on to actually retire the final 9 of 12 batters that he saw or so. So again, not a great outing for Shamanaya. Still trying to get back in the groove of things after having himself, all the injuries that sustained him for the first half of the season. But Sean, that we saw 7 strikeouts, 1 walk, 4 earned runs, 5 innings of 6 hit ball at just under 5-year rate. I'm going on a scale of 1 to 10. Wardy's latest grade for the starting pitching final line, we are going to go with a 4.5 out of 10. I don't think that Sean was horrendous, but I also know that he really didn't help out the Mets all that much either. And another outing where he was not able to provide the length that this team needed. You know what I mean? Like the Mets, what was so beautiful about Shamanai in the second half of last season, after he made that proper arm adjustment there with his arm slot looking more like Chris Sale from the left side, was that he was providing length. He was going deeper into games. He was going more 6 and 7 inning outings consistently. And now we will be lucky if we can get 1 6-inning outing from anyone over the next week of baseball. Where the Mets have, in my opinion, the best offense over the last year. Here's the thing. The Mets do have a very good offense on paper. That's a frustrating thing. They have so many pieces and so much talent. This is why this collapse hurts so much more. Because this is less about the players on the field as it is the philosophy and the new ways to lose. It has been disgusting to watch in real time how everything has unraveled to the point that it has been. Then we see it becomes a 6-5 ball game because Tyler Rogers, unfortunately, can't get out of the 6th inning at least without allowing a earned run. We see Cole Young allow that to make it a 1-run ball game, but that does it for Rogers. He allows 1 run across that inning or so. Here comes Caleb Ferguson, everybody. Caleb Ferguson gets a 1-2-3 on the Mets. Caleb Ferguson was acquired, that we saw from the Pittsburgh Pirates there, if I'm not mistaken, to the Seattle Mariners at this past year's trade deadline. I think Caleb came from the Pirates, but don't quote me on that. I'm like 70% sure of it. As we get to the 7th inning, guys, Ryan Helsley's in the ball game. It's a 1-run ball game. Okay? Let's take a look at the Mets bullpen usage yesterday. Because when we take a look at the Mets bullpen usage yesterday, what do we see? What we see is Kodai Senga, Tyler Rogers, Ryan Helsley, Edwin Diaz used. Okay, so you mean to tell me On a day where Gregory Soto had more than a day's rest, on a day that Reed Garrett had more than a day's rest, you thought it was a smart idea to go with Ryan Helsley, who has clearly not looked good in the Mets bullpen every outing with the exclusion of his first outing as a Met on August 1st, in which I attended. Yet Carlos Mendoza really thought it was a great idea to bring in Ryan Helsley. This is where I call on Mendy. I'm not saying everything was wrong with Carlos Mendoza today, but that was wrong. There was never anything right with it. The fact that most of his fans were cringing as we saw Helsley come in today tells you all you need to know, okay? If Helsley wasn't batting practice his past 3 outings, I wouldn't care nearly as much. But what are you doing? Actually, what are you doing? It doesn't make sense. And I know, you say to yourself, but Ryan Helsley is the best pitcher among that group on paper. That might be true, but if we're basing things on paper right now, then we should say that the Mets are going to go ahead and win the World Series because we love the talent on paper. That means jack shit. What we have to focus on is the actual problem with the club. What is the flow of this current team? There was never a justified reason to bring Ryan Helsley in that 7th inning. Whatever sorry excuse that Carlos Mendoza gives you post-game is not good enough. It doesn't matter how maybe good his splits were against the handed pitching to batter matchup that Helsley had in that inning. Nothing about it made justified sense, and all you needed was the effing eye test, common sense, to tell you that that was not the right decision. So, as we go on from there, Ryan Helsley, who begins the 7th inning, we see give up a double right away to Cal Riley. Because, yeah, we're going to go ahead and pitch to Cal Riley still, as if that made any effing sense. Then we see Eugenio Suarez rip his 21st double of the year. Mind you, Suarez hasn't hit at all for Seattle since being acquired 2 weeks ago. But he just hit there, and he ties the ball game 2-2, because of course he does. 6-6, rather. Then we see that's it for Ryan Helsley. That's it. Hell's bells, more like just hell. That's all we're getting from Ryan right now. Nothing entertaining about hell. It's just hell. Then we get Brooks Raley. Brooks Raley has been absolutely dynamo for the Mets all season long. And sadly, Brooks Raley was not able to be that today. But I'm not going to sit here and rag too much on Brooks. Raley has been that guy every outing for the most part. That's the difference. That's the context behind why I, as a fan, am not going to freak out over an anomaly of an outing for one guy who's been otherwise brilliant versus a guy who has been dog shit almost every outing out there, i.e. Helsley. That's the difference. Brooks Raley gives up a single right away to Dominic Canzone. That makes it 7-6. Then we see a Mitch Garver walk, a Donovan Solano double later, and it's 8-6. Then we see, okay, here comes pinch runner Dylan Moore, and then we see Cole Young have another huge hit. It makes it 10-6 with his 7th double of the year. Again, Brooks Raley didn't have it today. It's going to happen. While that sucked tremendously, context is why I'm not going to go up and beat up on him right now, okay? If Raley has been trashed for like 2 weeks straight like the Mets have, then we'd have a different discussion. This was just not his night against a absolutely fantastic Mariners team that has been one of the hottest teams, if not the hottest team, in all of not just the AL, but arguably Major League Baseball, with the exception there of the Milwaukee Brewers over the past week and a half to 2 weeks now. Yes, David, I get the comments about Conforto all the time. I don't see it. I don't know what you guys see about me looking like Michael Conforto. I really don't understand it. Conforto was my favorite player when he was on the Mets, though. I knew he wasn't the best, but he was my personal favorite. So I wonder if that has anything to do with it. Yeah, I don't know. Some people say I look like Alonso, too. I'm like, yeah, maybe half of Alonso. I met Pete. Pete's twice my effing size. You know, like, I don't know what about my facial features and the thin facial hair is what's causing that connection. But it's David says it's the dreamy eyes. That's pretty effing funny. Getting me to blush here as the Mets lose 11-9 in 14 of 16 games. That made my night. That was hilarious. I really appreciate that. So it's 10-6 Seattle Mariners, guys, as we then get to the bottom of the 7th. And in the bottom of the 7th, what do we see? Another 1-2-3 by the Mets offense. This time it's Soto, Nimmo, and Alonso. All the guys you need to step up after facing that adversity, and they roll over and die instead. Cal Riley is facing Frankie Montas, and because it's Frankie Montas, you knew he's going to be ass. And we really said to ourselves, you know what? Cal Riley's already torched the Mets today, but let's have Frankie Montas and his meatballs face Cal Riley today. I mean, like, at this point, that's another criticism you could rightfully give there, because even with the Mets in the current position that they were in today, why aren't you giving Barry Bonds treatment to clearly a Barry Bonds type hitter for the Mariners right now? And that is not an exaggeration. Cal Riley's having one of the best offensive seasons in all Major League Baseball right now. Think I'm joking? Buddy's batting roughly 250, but he has just under 950 OPS. He has 46 to 47 home runs. Yet you mean to tell me that after getting your teeth kicked in on him multiple times, okay, let's go ahead and face him again. Our worst pitching option that we could have utilized today, we're going to go ahead and have him challenge it. Yeah, I'm sorry. We're just coming up with random shit at this point. We're throwing shit at the wall and seeing if it's sticking. Folks, it's not sticking. It's sliding down. It's causing a shit stain, and it looks terrible. Julio Rodriguez with his 21st double of the year. That makes it 11-6 because, of course, he does. That does it for the inning, though, but that would be the Mets' demise, right? We would see Cedric Mullins rip himself a fantastic double, his 21st of the year with one away there an inning or so later, and then Francisco Alvarez, who I love like no tomorrow. Alvarez, he has looked so good. So unbelievably good since getting the call back up. Such a damn shame that this is happening now where the Mets are not getting enough clicking. He's literally been tremendous. I have been beyond jaw-dropped when it comes to being impressed with Alvarez since coming back. He looks so much like what we were seeing in the minor leagues during his stint there. We have to give a massive shout-out to guys that helped him get right there, including JP Arancibia. Oh, no, not the Mets hitting coaches and Eric Chavez and Jeremy Barnes because they're otherwise useless. At least it appears that way. But in the case of what happened down there, something worked right, and now he's back to being the guy that he needs to be. Alvarez with the bomb, his 7th of the year. That makes it 11-9 ball game. The Mets still lose in the end here, though. I'm not even going to talk about anything else. They do nothing in the 9th. Juan Soto strikes out swinging. Brutal at bat. Pete Alonso grounds out. Andres Munoz, one of the nastier relievers in all the American League and baseball, gets the job done. And that does it, everybody, for the ball game. On the hitting end, this is what you got from the Mets offense. Again, they had a lot of offense in this ball game, but still no victories to show. And the fact that the Mets have averaged around 7 runs over their past week of baseball and are 1-4 of that stretch, I'm not going to lie, probably among the worst feelings imaginable right now as a fan. It's up there. It's up there because we've been lawning and crying for the Mets to hit with runners in scoring position. They finally start to do that, and they still can't even muster a win. They can't do it. I'm also going to be out of here not long from now, guys. I'm going to be completely transparent. My stomach is getting cooked right now, and I don't know if it's because of stuff I had earlier. I really didn't have much earlier. I don't know if it's because I've been getting so cooped up with this team, but when I tell you that I'm not even joking, that this team is giving me the you-know-whats, they're literally giving me the you-know-whats, okay? Cue the WardyNYM of screaming on the toilet while seen in that same light, like a superimposed right over my face, 11-9 Seattle Mariners final against the New York Mets. Lindor, 3 for 5, 4 RBIs, 2 bombs, 253 average, 772 OPS. Soto, 252 average, and 883 OPS. Nimmo, 251 average, 759 OPS. Alonso, 263 average, 269 average rather, nice, 874 OPS. McNeil, 250 average, 774 OPS. Vientos, 227 average, 633 OPS. You know what, like, here's the thing. Are you going to bat Vientos the next 4 or 5 days? Otherwise, why are you batting him? Like, genuinely speaking, what makes you think Carlos Mendoza, that out of all the opportunities to utilize Mark Vientos, you think it's a bright idea to have him face a flame-throwing right-hander and not Luis Severino, and Luis Castillo? Like, if you're going to be as sporadic as you are with playing the guy, at minimum you could do is put him in more favorable matchups. Yeah, here we are talking about how Vientos didn't get a hit today, but I'm sorry, it's not Mark's fault nearly as much when Buddy is clearly struggling to handle being utilized in a limited role. The Mets clearly aren't supporting him at all. They're treating him like a player that they can give a rat's ass about when it comes to what happens to him this offseason. And that's really frustrating when Vientos could have been an X factor in acquiring Luis Robert. And in case you guys are wondering, not that Cedric Mullins has been bad for us, because he hasn't, but in case you guys have been wondering the status of Luis Robert, let me enlighten you. Let me enlighten you real quick. And I get it. Robert on the White Sox, you're not going to see great numbers to begin with. However, Luis Robert, over his past 2 weeks of baseball, since the trade deadline, for context, since the trade deadline, Luis Robert is batting .291 with a .333 on base and a right around .400 slug. Again, not jaw-dropping numbers, but for a guy that couldn't even bat the Mendoza line for the first 80 games of the season, kind of a big deal. Kind of a big deal, you know? It just, you really have to wonder and say to yourself, if we're going to be stubborn and not parting ways with controllable guys that do not have an immediate role for this team, that do not have any minor league options, and are at greater risk of being parted with for nothing than anything else, don't you think it makes at least a sliver of sense to do a greater job in parting ways with said player when you had an opportunity to? Like, was it really going to cost Jonathan and Mark Vientos in a trade for Robert? I'm calling bullshit on that front. Pardon my French, but I'm calling BS. I don't think that's the case. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't see how that can be the case. I really don't. And Danny, I'm sorry, but I have to talk about what ifs a little bit because the what ifs are important context when we see the struggles the Mets have had. And I'm not saying that Mullins has been this huge liability because he hasn't. But the point I'm trying to make is we're wasting away a player who's a year removed from having roughly 30 home runs. His value is so far in the gutter right now that as we head in the offseason, what makes you think that's going to be any better? Because it's not going to be. It's stupid is what we're doing. Of course you have the runs. The Mets, that's hilarious. That's actually hilarious. Jonah, here's the thing though. The Mets did have the runs today. The offense was having the runs and the SHIT factor, the way that I was insinuating a second ago. Thank you for that donation though. That's pretty funny. That really is. Let's see. Yeah, man, I had to take a break tonight. I just couldn't bring myself to watch this garbage anymore. I don't blame you. I don't blame you at all. I don't blame you for feeling that way. All we can do is hopefully come back strong tomorrow. I know, Dave. Dave, I love you to death, Dave. For those that don't know Dave Coffer, he's been a longtime follower of mine for years. Every single day, I look forward to getting a comment from Dave, whether it's live or on replay, saying, hey, Wardy, hope all is well. Great job and this and that. I really do appreciate that. Team Bubbleguts shaking my head. Literally, it's terrible. Yeah, we do need a Wardy 10 on your next purchase with Tom. Seriously, that's actually a great sponsor idea. I'm gonna hit up my agent tomorrow and bring that up to him. I actually love that idea. How perfect would it be if we had a sponsor on the platform that went in direct hand with Harper and Ajita? To the New York, literally as if I'm trying to sell you, a consultation, right? Did the New York Mets just drop a game in heartbreaking fashion, heart palpitating fashion, so much so that your chest is tight, your throat's feeling like you're going to throw up, you're feeling the acid reflux all the way up? If you find yourself in that category, you can be held for compensation. But by compensation, we mean a free dose of blank, blank, blank with this promo code from your guy, Wardy. That's something that we have to do. I actually love that idea. I want to see Wardy's face on the bottle all the time. So do I. I'm not going to lie. That'd be pretty hilarious. As we hop back in here, though, that's it for the Mets offense. Again, they batted 500 today with runners in scoring position. I can't complain about that. But what I can complain about is a whole lot of this. A whole lot of this. Oh my God, even Alan is in the mob of toxicity, guys. Alan Gonzalez, who's a longtime follower in the live chat as well, he's the guy that usually says even when the Mets are 11 games below 500 that they're going to rally back. Now even he's down in the dumps. You see what this team is doing to us in real time? Bringing out the worst in us. Might be far-fetched, but could there be a clubhouse? I think that is far-fetched, if I'm being honest, Zach. And the reason why I think that's far-fetched is because there's been nothing to insinuate such a thing at all. I actually would argue the opposite, as a matter of fact, especially because I know that there are multiple players in the Mets clubhouse, including guys like Alonso, that even though that, they're American, they're bilingual, he can speak fluent Spanish, among other things. And that going out of his way, like he has, like other players, only creates a greater bond and connection, especially when you look at guys like Lindor, obviously Diaz and so many other players, whether they're Puerto Rican, Dominican, Venezuelan, what have you, being able to kind of nip in the butt the language barrier a little bit helps so much, obviously, in the bonding. That's why Alvarez has went out of his way to work heavily on his English since he got called up by the Mets a couple years ago, because it's not only great when it comes to game calling and interacting with the pitchers, it's great to just have a greater understanding of the game and to be there in the clubhouse. I respectfully disagree on that. I do think that's far-fetched, but I get it from the sense of you're just trying to figure out what's wrong with this team at this point. I think they get along too well. That's a possibility too, Nick. You're not wrong. That happens as well. You're not. Sometimes getting along too well can mean comfortability sets in. And when comfortability sets in, you get too comfortable before it gets too bad, and it's too little too late then to right the ship. You're losing. That's what's happening. It's because they're a bad team. I don't disagree with you, Burgers. They have been a bad team for a pretty damn good stretch now. Do you honestly think we are going to be able to make the playoffs? I think that we can make playoffs. Yes. Do I think that we can make playoffs and be happy about as Mets fans? Not right now. Not right now. I think if the Mets make playoffs right now, we're all going into it with fool's gold. That's how I feel. We need a Rat Raccoon sequel. Desperate times call for desperate measures. But I think that's a greater example of just what is so wrong about this organization. truthfully. The main problem that we have with this organization is that we're more reliant on some type of spark or flare of things out of our control, like literally stupid things outside the game of baseball to get this team right. That's a massive problem. Wardy, do I need a shrink, or does the bullpen need intensive psychological counseling? Oh, you need a shrink. Absolutely. Utilize BetterHelp. BetterHelp is a former sponsor of the platform. I'm not currently a sponsor, but I will always advocate for them. Fantastic product. BetterHelp is helping thousands of people daily, worldwide, everybody, simply by utilizing them at your fingertips. They are a mobile app that you guys can utilize and interact with therapists on the fly in real time, and you don't have to wait to have your perfect session set up for that one day of the week. You can hit them up on a whim, and you can even change your therapist based on what is more comfortable for you. I'm literally doing an ad read for them right now when they're not even a sponsor, because that's how much I heavily advocate for proper therapy. BetterHelp, if you guys have not utilized before, especially in times when you're really, really upset, I'm telling you, go ahead and use them. They do a very good job. And that's coming from experience, mind you. All right, guys, that's going to do it. I'm out of here. I love you all to death. This team is driving me up a wall, and I want to try to get some shut-eye before whatever the hell they're going to serve up tomorrow with Nolan McClain on the bump. Love you, Nolan. Excited to see what you can do. Not excited about everything else. Until then, have a fantastic rest of your night, day, evening, whenever you guys are watching.